And if you disagree with this sentiment, I don't need your business. Thanks.
Alex, what has been the reaction to Disney's latest expensive own goal?
Well, the reaction has been only made less than $1 million in China. Absolutely horrible. It is the worst box office from a Disney live action remake that they've ever done.
Rachel Zegler is extraordinarily woke, but she's woke in a way that's quite deranged.
And you know the saying, go woke, get broke, and Disney's going to lose money on this movie, and I believe it.
I truly do believe that. There's something wrong with her. She's disturbed, she's unhappy, and she thinks it's about feminism and the patriarchy and about abortion, but the reality is she's just not stable.
No one on the right side of America can stand the star of this movie.
I'm going to stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess. I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
She gets less likable. There's some clip of her on the internet in her Snow White outfit saying, every hour I am in the outfit of Snow White wearing the dress. All 18 hours, I deserve to be paid for every single one. Oh, really? Are you having trouble paying your bills, Rachel? Did Steven Spielberg not pay you for your role in West Side Story? Did Disney fail to give you a healthy paycheck for, Cry Me a River? She's just exactly everything that we can't stand.
What would you say to those who are just kind of overly critiquing the film at this point? You've worked so hard on it.
I'm getting on across. Hold on. Here. Yeah, hold on.
All right. Congrats, Rachel.
Oh, my God.
Nobody
Who
wants
wants
that.
a movie about true love? What kind of woman do we want out there seeking true love, Eliana? The outrage.
Of a Disney movie, and she acts like she's some sort of victim, and that's the sort of mentality that is just poisoning people's minds. She acts like her life is so bad.
But you don't seemingly like your own character, so she comes off as an insufferable, whiny brat.
Rachel is literally the star.
Have you ever watched a dream job spiral into a nightmare right before your eyes? That's exactly what happened when Rachel Zegler, fresh off her West Side Story triumph, stepped into the glass slippers for Disney's big-budget Snow White remake. The star power was there. The studio had a legacy property. Millions of fans, from grandparents who adored the classic to new viewers curious about a modern twist, were supposed to show up in droves. Except they didn't. In fact, Snow White crashed so spectacularly that people who did buy tickets felt like they had private viewings in empty theaters. With each passing day, the situation went from underwhelming debut to downright theatrical ghost town. Add to that a torrent of controversies sparked by Rachel herself, ones that inflamed loyal Disney diehards, fueled social media storms, and even roped in her famous co-stars. Suddenly, the magical story we all knew and loved turned into a cautionary tale about what happens when you take on an untouchable classic without respect for its roots or its fans. So how did one of Disney's cornerstone fairy tales end up as the butt of jokes and memes across the internet? And is the spotlight about to fade entirely for an actress once seen as the studio's next shining star? Let's break it down piece by piece and figure out how Disney's prized princess story became a real-life tragedy in front of the world. The storm of controversies. Typically, when you're the face of a Disney fairy tale, you play nice with the original story, even if you plan to modernize it. But Rachel Zegler opted for a bolder approach. In interviews, she called the 1937 Snow White extremely dated, implying it needed a thorough revamp. Then she added that the prince was basically an unwanted stalker with no personality. Understandably, some people found these comments refreshing. Society has changed since the 1930s, and there's certainly room to analyze old narratives through a new lens. Still, fans weren't happy about how harshly she dismissed a film that had enchanted generations of families. The internet erupted. Suddenly, this wasn't just about whether the new Snow White would have a modern twist. It was about loyalty to the original, about disrespecting Walt's classic, and about a star who seemed willing to throw out beloved elements of the story just to make a point. But Rachel didn't stop there. At one point, her interviews and social media posts took a turn toward politics. She made snide remarks that some viewers perceived as telling entire groups of people to skip the movie if they didn't share her stance. Of course, actors have a right to their opinions, but many felt that mixing personal politics into a family-friendly brand was a recipe for disaster. Before the film had even premiered, a notable chunk of potential audience members were alienated. Disney tried to keep eyes on the production's positives: bigger budget, modern CGI, the promise of new songs, and a real emphasis on Snow White's personal growth. Yet every promotional effort clashed with more controversies that flared online. The more Rachel talked about how the original film was flawed, the louder the backlash grew. For a moment, It looked like the film itself might still manage to win hearts once it released. But by the time it did, the negativity had reached a boiling point. CO-star tensions and social media slip UPS. Sometimes the biggest controversies aren't even about the movie's plot, they revolve around the people involved. Rachel's dynamic with Gal Gadot, cast as the evil queen, was a major selling point. Gal's star power, combined with Rachel's up-and-coming appeal, should have created a surge of interest. Instead, rumors began swirling that the two were anything but friendly. Fans noticed that Rachel threw subtle jabs at Gal, calling her a pageant queen or sidestepping her name in social media shoutouts. Suddenly, theories popped up suggesting envy, personal clashes, or just plain arrogance. Then came talk of threats targeted at Gal, allegedly prompted by certain stans who took sides in the rumored feud. Whether or not Rachel had anything to do with these messages, the internet pinned some portion of the blame on her because she'd initiated the negativity through indirect potshots and questionable remarks. Disney's PR team must have been in panic mode, attempting to orchestrate joint interviews that felt increasingly stiff. Gossip spread about how the actresses had to be kept apart or how entire segments were edited to avoid tension. Meanwhile, Rachel was posting on social media in ways that only fanned the flames. She'd upload a jokey video or a cryptic message, and people would dissect every second for hidden meaning. It all converged into a swirl of bad press. Rather than shining a spotlight on the film's potential merits, tabloids and fans kept asking, what's going on between Rachel and Gal? By the time the movie landed in theaters, those stories overshadowed nearly everything else. Sometimes controversies can boost a film if people watch just to see the drama. But that didn't happen here. Viewers simply lost interest. And that spelled big trouble for the box office outcome. The box office freefall. Despite the social media outrage, some fans believed there was still a chance for Snow White to rake in money from Disney enthusiasts. After all, how many times have we seen a film mired in controversy only to perform decently thanks to brand loyalty? But when opening weekend numbers rolled in, it was like watching a car skid straight off a cliff. Estimates for the production and marketing budget hovered around $370 million. Industry insiders had anticipated a big worldwide haul, enough to justify that lavish investment. Instead, the film opened to a meager $43 million domestically, about the same range that smaller budget films managed to secure. Experts quickly labeled it a box office bomb, an embarrassing one at that. Word of mouth was brutal. People posted videos of nearly empty theaters. Ticket sellers displayed seat maps with more open spots than a parking lot after midnight. Second week sales dropped by more than 60%, cementing Snow White as a flop. International markets didn't ride to the rescue either. While foreign territories added some revenue, it wasn't anywhere near enough to break even, let alone turn a profit. The downward spiral continued, with daily box office trackers showing a rapid fade out. Some fans felt that Disney's marketing had oversold the film's quality, while others believed the negative buzz from Rachel's interviews and co-star drama torpedoed any chance of success. In Hollywood, perception often shapes reality. And the perception was that Snow White was not only a financial dud, but also a colossal disappointment for a studio that used to count on beloved classics to deliver guaranteed returns. Memes blame and online taunts. When a film fails in the modern age, it doesn't just fade into obscurity. It gets meme-ified, and Snow White was no exception. Rachel inadvertently became the face of mockery when she posted a clip of herself watching the film in a practically empty theater, presumably trying to normalize or laugh off the situation. But the internet rarely shows mercy. Suddenly, that harmless clip was remixed and shared with captions like, "When your star power can't even fill 5 seats," or "Welcome to Rachel's private screening." People half-jokingly speculated that she rented out the theater to spare herself the embarrassment of seeing how few people turned up. Others argued she was being self-aware, but the consensus was that the optics looked terrible. Meanwhile, armchair analysts on social media pinned the blame squarely on Rachel. Every time she had thrown shade at the original movie or lobbed political grenades, she'd been chipping away at potential audiences. In an era where brand loyalty is fragile, antagonizing fans is like stepping on the studio's own toes. Disney, though, wasn't off the hook either. Some critics hammered the company for churning out yet another remake that not only disrespected the source material, but also failed to bring anything genuinely fresh or appealing to modern viewers. The memes spiraled beyond comedic. They turned the entire fiasco into a cautionary tale. If you're going to helm a legendary Disney property, tread lightly with your words. Because once the internet decides you're an ungrateful star who trashed a classic, it's nearly impossible to escape that reputation. Corporate cleanup and career fallout. Disney, known for protecting its brand image with fortress-like resolve, tried to plug the holes in the sinking ship. Insiders whispered that top executives flew out to have a stern chat with Rachel, urging her to issue apologies and adopt a more neutral stance in interviews. She did release a statement that was roundly criticized as scripted and insincere. Some even joked it had been typed by a Disney staffer wearing Mickey Mouse gloves. But the damage had been done. Almost immediately, rumors surfaced about Rachel's upcoming projects. Some said she was rumored to voice a character in Toy Story 5, but that supposedly fell through. Another potential gig in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise seemed to vanish overnight. And Blumhouse, a studio known for horror hits, was reportedly distancing itself from any association with Rachel's name. Of course, these remain rumors, as most studios don't publicly confirm or deny every conversation they have with actors. But the message was clear. When your controversies start overshadowing your craft, you become a liability. Even the legendary Steven Spielberg, who discovered Rachel for West Side Story, was rumored to be quietly disappointed in how her promising career trajectory had detoured into constant drama. Within Disney, the meltdown led to internal debates about whether the brand had lost its magic for live-action remakes. Some executives might see Snow White as a cautionary signal. Fans won't tolerate half-baked reimaginings or leading stars who openly sneer at the classics. That combination proved lethal. While the film might eventually eke out some extra revenue on streaming platforms, the stain on Rachel's reputation and the studio's pride remains. Where things stand now. At this point, Snow White is shorthand for spectacular flop, one that rivals any cinematic misfire you can recall. Despite the best efforts from Disney's marketing juggernaut, the film never captured the public's heart. In fact, it became a lightning rod for heated discussions about everything from political correctness to the arrogance of young Hollywood talent. For Rachel, the road ahead looks uncertain. Hollywood adores a comeback story, but that typically requires humility, dedication, and a project that resonates with audiences. Will casting directors think twice before hiring her? Possibly. But the entertainment industry also forgives quickly if you're talented enough and show genuine contrition. It remains to be seen whether Rachel can pivot from this fiasco. Meanwhile, Disney has to grapple with the fallout, the negative social media attention, the financial losses, and the lingering question of whether the magic formula for live-action remakes is starting to break down. There's an entire generation of fans who grew up on these classic tales, and they might be telling the studio, mess with our childhood favorites at your own risk. The unfinished story. So here we are, a tale of high hopes and even higher drama, culminating in empty theaters, and a star dealing with the wreckage of her own words. Snow White was supposed to be a feel-good blockbuster, the kind that cements a rising star's place in Hollywood royalty. Instead, it turned into a fiasco of behind-the-scenes tension, public spats, and seats so empty you could hear echoes. Is Rachel Zegler's career doomed? That's for time to decide. The film world can be surprisingly forgiving if she finds the right project and steps away from fueling controversies. But one lesson is clear. No matter how famous or beloved a Disney story might be, you can't take an entire audience's goodwill for granted. Respect for the source material matters. So does respecting the fans who hold these classics dear. In the end, this saga serves as a stark reminder that nothing is guaranteed, not even a happily ever after for Disney's most iconic princess. One misstep in the spotlight, and you might find yourself on the outside looking in, with social media turning each stumble into a meme for the ages. Whether Rachel can rewrite her narrative or whether Snow White remains a permanent dark spot on her resume is anyone's guess. In Hollywood, as in fairy tales, the unexpected can happen overnight. Until the curtain falls for good, we'll be left wondering if this spectacular flop marks the final page in Rachel Zegler's once promising story, or merely a plot twist that sets the stage for redemption. After all, fairy tales can be complicated, and sometimes the villain emerges from the unlikeliest place. Maybe, just maybe, there's still time for a rewrite. But for now, the story stands as a real-life lesson in how a cherished classic can collapse under the weight of modern missteps, and how a star can go from headline-grabbing talent to an industry cautionary tale in the blink of an eye.